Over the years, several attempts at untangling the chronology of the Genesis flood have been made. The latest one, and best one in my opinion, is a 1988 paper by Lloyd M. Barré. This video follows his conclusions closely. Because the flood passage is a combination of two different stories, each with its own chronology, this task is like assembling two similar but not identical jigsaw puzzles whose pieces have been jumbled together, knowing that some of the pieces have been lost, and without knowing what the final pictures even look like. Let's start by spreading out what pieces we have on the table. The items highlighted are the ones Barré says belong to the priestly story. Now, it bears mentioning that a variety of calendars were used by ancient Near Eastern cultures for civil and religious purposes. These include 354-day lunar calendars and solar calendars with 364 or 365 days. However, as we shall see, the flood story uses a 360-day calendar with 12 30-day months. The years are counted according to Noah's age. The first piece of data in the priestly story occurs in 711, where we are told that the flood began on the 17th day of the second month of the 600th year. Next, in 724, we are told that the waters swelled for 150 days, which is exactly 5 months. Adding 5 months to the start date brings us to the 17th day of the 7th month. According to 8.4, that date is when the ark lands on the mountains of Ararat. However, this is not the end of the flood, but its midpoint, for the priestly author has told us that the waters covered the mountains 15 cubits deep, but the ark is 30 cubits high. According to 8.3, it takes another 150 days for the waters to abate. This again is exactly 5 months, which would take us to the 17th day of the 12th month. This date is not in the surviving text, but as we shall see, it probably was at some point. According to 8.13, the earth is dry enough for Noah to disembark on the first day of the first month of the 601st year. This is exactly 14 days after the end of the flood. Where do those 14 days come from? Why, the doves, of course. When the flood ended, Noah sent out a dove 3 times, separated by 2 7-day intervals. This shows that the doves belong to the priestly source, contradicting a common assumption by scholars. It should be noted that the Yahwist's raven never returns, implying that it is the last bird he sent out. In other Mesopotamian flood stories, the hero sends out either 3 different kinds of birds, like the dove, swallow, and raven in the Gilgamesh epic, or else a group of birds 3 times. It never made sense that the Yahwist would spoil this pattern by sending out a raven and then a dove 3 times. Quite likely, the original Yahwist version also had 3 different birds. The editing that has occurred to combine his raven with the priestly writer's doves could also be responsible for the deletion of the priestly end date for the flood. Now let's back up a bit. In 8.5, the priestly author states that the mountains appeared on the first day of the 10th month. This is almost the exact midpoint of the second 150-day stretch. The exact midpoint would be the second day, but the author apparently favored the first day. Now, if the priestly writer loves symmetry, as he appears to do, there should be a midpoint for the first 150 days as well. This should occur in chapter 7 verse 19, when the mountains are covered by the rising waters. The date would be the first day of the 5th month. Unfortunately, that piece is missing from our puzzle. Barré believes that verse 19 is corrupt, and he offers a reconstruction that includes the date in question. The date on which Elohim appears to Noah is not provided by the present priestly text. In keeping with the symmetry of the story and its parallels with the construction of the tabernacle, the first day of the first month is a natural deduction. Unfortunately, this portion of the timeline remains incomplete. Overall, the priestly flood follows a schematic, symmetric timeline that spans 1 year. In addition to the start and end of the floodwaters, it observes the flood's midpoint as well as the point at which the mountains are covered while the waters rise, and the point at which the mountains reappear while the waters abate. The Yahwist flood chronology is missing more pieces, but educated guesswork can fill in the gaps. The notice at 7.6 that the flood occurred in the 600th year of Noah's life probably belongs to the Yahwist, contrary to what is usually believed. Presumably this refers to the start of the year, the first day of the first month. 8.14 says that the earth was dry in the second month of the 27th day. Because of its placement after the priestly date of 11601, most readers assume that this date applies to the year 601. However, the year is not actually specified. If this date belongs to the Yahwist, we can take it to be the year 600. This means the Yahwist story covers a span of 57 days. Let's figure out the intermediate stages. The Yahwist version of the building of the Ark is missing from the final text. Since building the boat took 7 days in the Gilgamesh epic, we can try that number here as well. It takes us to the 8th day. In 7.4, after the Ark has been built, Yahweh announces that the flood will occur in 7 days. This takes us to the 15th day. Then Noah enters the Ark, and we get 40 days and nights of rain. The flood ends on the 25th day of the 2nd month. This leaves us with 2 days for the raven. Barré suggests that in the original Yahwist story, the raven was sent out 3 times like the priestly writer's dove, but spaced 1 day apart so it goes out on the 25th, 26th, and 27th days. My personal guess is that the Yahwist had a dove, a swallow, and a raven as in the Gilgamesh epic. The first 2 birds have been deleted from the combined text. There's no way to be sure that this matches the Yahwist's timeline perfectly. It is, however, a pretty good guess that fits all the pieces available. The fact that we can make 2 self-consistent and highly schematic timelines from the contradictory jumble of dates in the canonical text is further evidence that the story combines 2 sources that were not written with the intention of being combined. It clarifies a few aspects of the story that are confusing, such as whether there was 1 or 2 40-day periods in the Yahwist version. It also gives us additional insight into which elements of the story belong to which sources. Perhaps the biggest surprise is that the Yahwist source used not only relative periods of 7 days and 40 days, but some absolute dates as well. But most importantly, in my opinion, this analysis reveals the beautiful symmetry of the priestly flood timeline, which is completely obscured by the final text. It's like an ornate vase that was broken into pieces and buried in the dirt for millennia, waiting for someone to excavate it and put it back together again. Thanks for watching.